moving swiftly on, so we do create space for a discussion in the round. Our next discussant is Laurie Lee, who is Deputy Director of External Relations at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and based here in London. Laurie, why should we be so interested in this phenomena of progress?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alison. We just want to say thank you, first of all, to you and Lisbeth and everyone in ODI who's worked on this programme, which we've been very pleased to support. I think we saw some of the early work have a big impact at the MDG Summit back in September, where I think the progress there that was able to be described on the MDGs really helped ensure that summit was a glass half full rather than a glass half empty moment, and it could have gone the other way. There's no doubt it could have gone the other way, and this work made a big impact to that, and I hope that as the rest of the work is now coming out, that it will continue to be as impactful as that. You've asked why are we so interested in it, and why did we ask ODI to do this work? And I think there are two simple reasons, and one of it, in a sense, is about all of us as development professionals finding out more about what works and spreading that knowledge and increasing the chances for those lessons to be spread around the world and scaled up more rapidly than otherwise. And Mark talked a little earlier about we should try and find out about the things that we don't know, and I think that in the past we have tended to know a lot, well, not always as much as we've ever wanted to know, but a lot about very macro levels of data, and we've had very kind of micro level project information, but this sits somewhere in the middle, and I think it's potentially really helpful at drawing out lessons which can be applied across different contexts, and it's done in a very easy to read way, which is certainly helpful and appreciated, I think, by everybody. And it tells us a little about how some of these successes have been achieved, not just, as I say, the macro data about what has been achieved. But the other reason that we're very interested in it, and we're very clear that this is an important part of why we're interested in it, is because we do think that the story of the progress made in developing countries with the support of official development assistance from countries like the UK, from DFID and others, needs to be better told to the public. We are very fortunate in this country, in the UK, to have a government that is very strongly committed to development, and it has agreed to increase DFID's budget while having to cut many others. That's not the case in many other countries around the world, and for that to be sustained and to be for other countries to be able to follow the lead of the UK, the public needs to know more about the effectiveness and the impact that aid can have. These kind of stories allow all of us to give that message much more clearly, much more easily, and much more robustly, and in an evidence-based way to the public and to political leaders and influential people in the media who need to hear that story and are sceptical and cynical sometimes about it. But we think there are great stories to tell, and it's important that does that. However, one quick question. It's been, when Elizabeth was talking, she described that the project was designed to focus on progress rather than outright success, and many of the stories are more multifaceted and complex than just, you know, a kind of out-and-out gold star. And life is like that. And I think it's good that the stories have reflected that. I would like to just suggest that, you know, maybe we need to even go a little further. Some of you will know that a Canadian NGO called Engineers Without Borders recently produced its third annual report on its failures. And failure really is a part of life and a part of all of our work. And we do see ourselves, I think, as being in a fairly high-risk business. And failure certainly ought to be a part of our work, or we're not taking the risks we should be taking. And yet we don't do a very good job of embracing that and learning what we should from that. it'd be nice to move to a situation where instead of there being one report on failures over there and one report on progress and success stories over here, that we really started to actually have a rather more mature discussion about how we learn from failures to create the next generation of successes. And I think that will help make our industry that much more robust to some of the people who would want to criticise it and use potentially quite small examples of failure to try and tar the whole industry with the brush of failure. I think a more mature approach to think we don't always get things right, but we do learn from them, and that leads to the successes in the future would be good. I want to just very quickly pick up a couple of the examples of the success stories, if I may. One is the Malawi story, which I think is really interesting. I mean, it's become a well-known one, particularly the agriculture part of that economic success story among our industry over the last few years. I think it was under the surprise column, was it?
It's under potential.
Oh, okay, not the surprise column. But it's interesting because it has, it's challenged a lot of orthodoxies in our industry, and we, in a sense, collectively, a lot of people have been unwilling to really accept it as a success story. Even when it was just a theory before it was done, then it was, the investments were made in fertilizer, had a big impact. People are still reluctant to really accept that they've made the right decisions, and they're sure it's all going to come tumbling down afterwards. And I think that is interesting, as Lisbeth was saying about the whole conversation that starting to think about progress makes you have as a group. And the success story lays out some of the critics very well there, but I do think that the point it makes, that fairly simple lesson, that targeting development policy in the sectors and the areas where poor people live and work is going to increase your chance of contributing to poverty reduction. A lot of poor people live in rural areas and they're farmers. Doesn't take a genius. The other one is the Rwanda health story, which definitely was on the surprise column there. And I just want to say, in some respects, it is not that surprising that a country like Rwanda can make amazing progress on its health statistics, both under 5 child mortality and maternal mortality, if it employs the relatively well-known, relatively inexpensive and very effective measures that we have available to us of vaccines and some of the basic steps which a mother can take with a newborn child. Cost very little, can have a huge impact, and here is a great example of that. And I just do want to flag on the back of that the Gates Foundation is delighted that DFID is going to be hosting a conference for Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunisation, here in the UK in June, where donors around the world will be invited to pledge resources to scale up this kind of success that we have seen in Rwanda by Gavi, and we hope that by sharing these stories, people will see that is a very wise investment of ODA and will come happily to that conference with their checkbooks open.
Thank you very much.